Welcome to the Beat DC. My name is Jamal Simmons, and I am here with the wonderful and talented editor-in-chief of the Beat DC. You get an email from her every morning. Her name is Tiffany Cross. Tiffany, welcome.
Thank you, Jamal. Very happy to be here.
This is, Tiffany is going to be an amazing force for the Beat. You've probably been seeing a lot of her lately. She's been out on Joy Reid's show. She's been on Ari Melber's show, which tried to steal our name, but that's okay. We like Ari, so we're not going to give him a hard time. Exactly. We made peace with him. But Tiffany is really stepping up on the Beat and making sure that everybody knows what the Beat DC is and where to find it and what they're going to get when they get there. So I'm just excited to always be here with Tiffany.
I'm excited to be here with you, and we're going to be continuing to work together as you transition to the Hill. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
So look for some future collaborations.
Yes.
I guess we should talk to this other person who's here with us.
There is somebody else here. There's somebody else here you guys are going to meet right now. Somebody we're very excited to have with us. We're going to have today Julián Castro, who is the former mayor of San Antonio, former Housing and Urban Development Secretary for President Barack Obama. He's a Texas native, but he's also launching a new PAC that he's going to tell us all about that's going to be focused on young leaders across the country. And I think he says young progressive leaders across the country.
That's right.
But I want to hear more. Secretary Castro, welcome to the Beat DC podcast.
Hey, thank you all very much. It's great to be with y'all, Jamal and Tiffany. Thank you for having me on. And I have only been back to DC 4 times before this since I left on January 19th, 2017. So it's good to be here with great folks that are doing good work. I've seen y'all on Twitter, so I'm familiar with your work, but happy to be here.
What brought you back this time?
And back from where?
Well, these days I'm splitting my time between San Antonio and Austin. I'm basically doing 4 things. My wife Erica and I have a girl that's about to turn 9, Karina. Some folks will remember her from the Democratic Convention. She was the one that flipped her hair.
Yes.
And then we have a son who was actually born when we were here in DC. He just turned 3. And so that's, of course, my family. And then I'm a visiting fellow at the LBJ school at UT. So I'm in Austin part of the time. And then I'm finishing a memoir that Little Brown is going to publish either at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. And then I have Opportunity First, which I know we'll talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
And so is that what brought you back here this week? Is Tiffany?
Yeah, so I was back here, for different meetings, and San Antonio was having its annual trip of business and civic leaders to DC. So I moderated a panel yesterday with folks from that delegation and visitors and so forth. And I was at a meeting of the American Jewish Council. They have a group that's working on the relationship between the Jewish community and the Latino community. So I was a part of that today. So staying busy.
Nice.
Very good. So tell us a little bit about Opportunity First, this new PAC that you've launched that's going to be focused on candidates.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think all of us are excited about the 2018 cycle. Let me start off by saying that I think this is going to be a cycle that all of us will remember, that there's going to be a very strong wave as long as all of us work for it. I got into public service when I was 26 years old, and my twin brother Joaquin was 28 when he got involved. And we both got involved in politics because we felt very, very blessed with tremendous opportunity in our lives. We had grown up on the west side of San Antonio with my mother and my grandmother, had a chance to go to Stanford on scholarships and got financial aid, and then went to law school, came back, started practicing law, got into politics. And I wanted to make sure that through public service, through my efforts, other people could have that same kind of opportunity that I had. So with Opportunity First, I'm basically looking for young progressives that are also committed to expanding opportunity in the years to come, especially these days, because if there's one thing that Donald Trump has stood for, it's been picking and choosing who gets opportunity in this country and who doesn't. Mm-hmm. Whether it's, the African American community, the Latino community, obviously the LGBTQ community, Jews, Muslims. The approach that this administration is taking is one that is not about expanding opportunity, but limiting it And I want people in local offices, in state offices, and in those 24 congressional districts that we need to take back the House that stand for opportunity for everybody.
When you say progressive, what do you mean?
Well, I mean across the board. These are folks that that believe in expanding healthcare coverage, would like to see universal healthcare. These are folks that are going to be inclusive. These are folks that are going to be pro-choice. Basically, people that believe in progressive values and are taking progressive positions.
So who are some candidates right now that you're watching and hoping to support?
Yeah, so we did a little bit before the turn of the year. Of course, most of the work that I'm going to do will be in the general election phase where we have the Democrat that's running against a Republican. But out here in Virginia, for instance, we supported Kathy Tran and Lee Carter, supporting a guy named Colin Allred, who's running in the
former NFL player.
Yes, and we worked together at HUD. And but even if I hadn't worked with him and seen what a brilliant guy he is, Colin grew up in that district. He's super sharp. He has the right values. He's progressive. I believe that he's going to win that primary and then beat Pete Sessions and flip one of those Texas congressional seats. I'm supporting Andrew Gillum out in Florida.
I saw that.
Great guy. We've known each other for years. Andrew's like the original young elected official, and he ran that young elected officials organization, YEO. Stacey Abrams in Georgia, we had a great conversation, and we're going to be supporting her and helping her out.
So this is great. Do you have, are you going to also, so you've got this cast, this group of candidates you're starting to focus on. Are you thinking also about the people who work for the candidates? Will you do any training or any kind of facilitating of staffers to get them ready to work on some of these great campaigns?
Yeah, somebody mentioned that to me yesterday, that there's a gap right now in training on policy, and suggested that one of the things that we look at is perhaps helping to prepare not only the candidates but the staff on actually taking office and being effective at governance. And I believe that's especially true because on the other side, the conservative side, they have things like ALEC that have helped staffs and candidates get very sharp about enacting legislation that I believe hurts a lot of communities, and we need to get good about how you enact legislation that helps communities. So we're going to take a look at that. The good news is that I believe that there are plenty of progressives out there that might that are office holders already that would lend their voice to helping to train potential candidates and staff.
And so how many candidates do you think you'll end up with?
I think by the end of it, it'll be my hope is that it's going to be over 100. It's a significant number across the country.
Are you going to give all of those guys money, men and women?
Yeah, I'm talking about ones that we'd like to give. Now, the amount of money will vary.
How much cash you got? What's in your pockets?
It'll depend, of course. This is not, I'm sure that it's not going to be the wealthiest pack out there, and that's not the intention. But it's in addition to the financial resources, helping out in any other way that we can, getting out there. We all remember how important it is on these campaigns to go and get the volunteers motivated and also do any kind of endorsement that could help, robocalls, all of those things that are part of campaigns that help make them successful. And I've been glad to see, especially in this cycle, so many people step up across the board, whether it's those indivisible groups or just any number of them that run for something comes to mind that are helping to support and train candidates.
I think one of the interesting things that we've seen the past two election cycles are some surprising results. So in 2016, I don't think the election turned out in ways that people thought it would. And even in some of the special elections that we saw in 2017, people of color seem to be driving election results the way the Trump base did in 2016. You mentioned some candidates that some people would argue maybe have a long shot. So like Andrew Gillum in Florida, obviously Florida's a huge deal. Stacey Abrams in Georgia.
Don't let him hear that. Andrew, I said you were going to win, Andrew.
I'm agreeing. I think all these people have a shot. And Texas is, a purple state, working its way towards being a purple state. Do you see this happening? I mean, I kind of feel like, after Alabama delivered us that, victory, is it a possibility or a probability at this point that people of color could actually make a huge change in the way the electoral layout of the country?
It's more probable today than it ever has been. And, of course, I'm not the first to say it, but, African-American women propelled us over the top.
You're welcome.
Yes. No, everybody appreciates it. In Alabama, when you look at a candidate like Stacey Abrams, that is the future of the state. And, of course, being from Texas, I know that it is always an uphill climb. But I also know that time is on our side. And I know that the question in 2018 is not whether Democrats are going to have the wind at our back. It's just how strong that wind is going to be, and how effectively we work to succeed at the ballot box. And I think a candidate like Stacey or Andrew, both of them are working very hard. They're reaching into communities of all backgrounds. They're candidates that speak to and resonate with everybody in their state, and they have proven leadership ability. That's the other thing, it's that we've selected good candidates. I mean, by we, I mean the Democrats have this wealth of candidates this year that, you're talking about Stacey that has been there leading in the state house, Andrew that's been in the state house, that's been a mayor. And so these are folks that know what they're doing, that can stand up there with anybody and debate policy or debate politics and are persuasive. And because of that, and because of the tailwind that we have, I believe that they can win. I also believe in Texas that Ted Cruz, I think it's 50-50 right now, that whether he holds on to his seat.
Beto outraised him last night.
He's out of through the last 3 quarters, Beto has outraised him 2 out of those 3. And this one was the widest gap, 1.9 million for Cruz, 2.4 million for Beto. Cruz, I think these days can't decide whether he should just get out of his own way and stay quiet, or because you barely see his head up.
I'm sorry. What I don't understand about Ted Cruz. This is I got a lot of beefs with Ted Cruz.
But that sentence could be filled out a lot.
But here's one thing I don't understand. Donald Trump talked about his wife like a dog, literally.
Yeah.
And now he is out here running around the country, having dinner with Donald Trump, pretending like they're getting along famously. As a man, how can you go back to someone who talked about your wife like that in public?
And his father.
Yeah, your
his father.
As good as mine. No, I told people, I said publicly, I remember saying in an interview around the time of the Democratic Convention in Philadelphia, that I don't think that, I guess Cruz had already gone back. Or maybe he had not yet gone back to support Trump. I said, people will respect if he doesn't support Donald Trump, because who wouldn't understand that if somebody attacks your spouse like that and your father, it's a natural human reaction to say, look, there's no way that I'm going to support you.
Look, I don't know about you, but I don't know if I could go home to my wife and tell her that I was going to have dinner with a guy who talked about her that way.
And I believe that is something that people remember and that is hurting him, because people think you're not even willing to stand up for your own family.
Yeah.
Why should I believe that you're going to really stand up for me? What you really stand for are your own personal political interests, even if it means, throwing your wife and your father under the bus. I mean, at a human level, who can trust somebody like that?
He was when the president gave the State of the Union, he was one of the people standing up, clapping. Did you catch the State of the Union? Do you have any thoughts on it?
I did. In fact, I was just on the street, walking on the street, and somebody said to me, "Oh, I liked your expression at the State of the Union." Brother, I said, "Oh, I'm the other one." Yeah, I'm the other. I told him I'm the other one. But I've gotten now. When I come to D.C., I get mistaken for my brother constantly. When I was here, at least, people knew that we were both here. But I did watch it. like everybody else, I wasn't surprised that Trump could read a script for an hour and 20 minutes. I think that, I call him the affirmative action president because people constantly grade him on a curve.
Absolutely.
He goes out there and gives one speech where he reads, and all of a sudden the headline in the Washington Post is that his bipartisan outreach. Just a few days after he made those comments about African nations and Haiti, and also is divisive every single day or every other day with his tweets. It's just, he gets graded on this terrible curve, and we can't accept that kind of curve for grading our public servants in American life. And of course this will fade and the news cycle will move on, but my hope is that people will remember when we actually had a president that we could be proud of, like Barack Obama, not what we see every day.
I read that you said this is a defining moment for Latino engagement. With a president like Donald Trump, who came down the escalator and the first thing he did was attack Mexican-American immigrants, or Mexican immigrants, rapists and criminals and all the things that he said. Do you think this defining moment for Latino engagement is going to manifest in the 2018 election? Will we see a turnout commensurate with the level of attack that's taking place in the Latino community?
Yeah, I think what's happened over these last 18 months, 2 years, is that this idea that we're off the rails has pervaded the Latino community more and more. At the beginning, it seemed like just talk. Mm-hmm. He made these terrible insults the first day that he announced in the summer of 2015, but it's a candidate talking. Now that we've seen, cutting off DACA, going back on his word about protecting dreamers, the additional insults that he's made, let me just say that it's hard to predict because we've predicted in the past about Latino turnout. But I believe that more people are motivated now, much more than usual in the Latino community, to get out and vote in a midterm election than they usually are, so that we don't have to wait for the presidential election. And then even at the presidential level, African American turnout in 2012, for instance, was 66%, and Latino turnout was 48%. There's so much ground to make up. But we can't just rely on Donald Trump's negative message. There has to be a positive message too, and I think that if we do that Latinos will turn out.
And there are two states that matters, I think, in the Senate races: Arizona and Nevada, especially. Right?
Yeah, and I would say Texas too. I mean, if we're going to have a chance, the thing about Texas is once it is turned on, like in California, I mean, when the switch is turned on and that turnout starts to happen, that's it. It's over.
But aren't there a lot of Latinos in Texas who are also conservatives, who vote for Republicans?
If you analyze California, Arizona, Colorado versus Texas, there's no question that the Latino community in Texas is more conservative than those other states, but it's still like a 65 to, maybe 67 or 63 to 37 split, I would say. So the more turnout that you get, it still works heavily in the favor of the Democrat. But you're right about Arizona and Nevada. There's a candidate out there in Arizona running for governor named David Garcia, and I'm watching his race because I believe that he has a decent shot. And then, of course, there's the Senate race that's going to happen, and Congresswoman Kyrsten Sinema that I know is running. And in Nevada, I understand Dean Heller is very vulnerable, and if the Latino community comes out at higher than normal levels in both of those states, it'll look good for us.
Are Democrats doing enough, though? Are Democrats doing enough to really activate that community? I mean, what was it, 5 years ago, people were calling President Obama the deporter-in-chief. So there's some toughness on Democrats on these questions. Are Democrats doing enough?
Well, I think that first that the Obama administration became a lot better on the issue of immigration. I mean, it was Obama that gave us DACA and then DAPA, which we pray for a president that would be like that today.
Explain the difference to the audience between DACA and DAPA.
Oh, yeah. So DACA was basically what we know now as protection for dreamers who came to the United States, who were brought to the United States as children between certain years. DAPA was principally the protection of their parents.
Okay.
And DAPA was done in, I believe, late the fall of 2014 or in that time frame. And that one was enjoined by the courts. So that one's not going forward. And DACA got undone by Trump.
So if the Democrats cut a deal with the president where they save DACA, but they fund or approve the wall, what does that do when you go out to young Latinos and try to turn them out?
From what I hear and what I see out there, they don't want that kind of deal. Mm-hmm. They don't support it. What the president has put forward would cut off their kin, their families, their parents, from ever being able to be citizens or legal residents. And of course, they want an opportunity for their parents to have a pathway to citizenship, or at least be able to stay in the United States. So my hope is that Democrats will continue to push back and get ultimately something that's much better than what Trump has offered so far, that yes, would allow a pathway to citizenship for I think 1.6 million or 1.8 million dreamers, but everybody else, forget it. I don't think that's the answer, and I also don't believe that a wall is the answer. I think that we can continue to improve border security, although it's probably better today than it ever has been in the history of our country.
I mean, in defense, President Obama did bring that number down to about net zero in terms of immigration.
I mean, net migration is more people, in fact, in a couple of years have gone back than have come in from Mexico. And you can, as many people have said, you can use technology, you can use personnel, you can use other resources that is not a wall. I believe that a wall should be your absolutely last resort as a nation, building walls. So we'll see what happens in this next month.
So you're headed to New Hampshire in a few weeks. Why?
Well, I'm speaking to the New Hampshire Young Democrats annual dinner. But I'm getting out there. They asked if I would go and lend my voice of support. I'm getting out there because I launched this PAC Opportunity First to support young progressives, and they are one of the most impressive chapters of Young Democrats out there. I think they've more than doubled the number of young people running in this cycle for office. They've recruited a lot of volunteers. But hey, look, I would be lying to you. I have said that I'm going to think about running in 2020. So am I going to take a little bit of time to survey the scene in New Hampshire and get a sense of how that's shaping up? Yeah, of course I am.
So what are your deciding factors? You're writing a book, you're going to New Hampshire, you started a PAC, like all the signs are there. What's going to be the thing to make you say, yep, I'm doing it, I'm going to announce?
I think, I need to get a sense of, like anybody who considers running for office, you need to get a sense of where the people are at, what people are thinking, what they're looking for, what they're saying, and listen. And so I want to get out there and do that. I believe that there's space in that race, but then things change too. Yeah. And I don't feel compelled to make an immediate decision on that. I believe that by the end of the year I will make a decision on it. Part of that decision-making process also, of course, involves my family. I spent 2.5 years at HUD from the middle of 2014 through the very beginning of 17, and I traveled to 100 different cities in 39 states. It was a great experience. I learned a lot, but I was also away a lot from my family, and I'm away a lot now too. And when you think about an endeavor like that, at a minimum, you're going to be away a lot for the next 1.5 to 2. And then if you get what you're aiming after, it's a life-changing experience for everybody, not just you as the candidate. So all of us and my family need to give a lot of thought to that. And we, of course, have had some conversations about that, but have not had extensive, definitive conversations. So you still need to do that.
So setting aside your own thought-making process, who are some people who excite you? If you don't,
there are plenty. That's the thing, sometimes I hear folks say that the Democrats don't have any bench. What are we going to do? Some people may remember the 1988 race, right, where they joked about the Democratic field as being the vice president against the Seven Dwarfs. Some folks remember that. And I couldn't disagree with people more. You look at folks like Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Kirsten Gillibrand, Cory Booker. You have a wealth of candidates that have integrity, that know the issues very well, that can excite people, that can are intelligent and can speak to the concerns of the nation. So I'm not worried about whether we're going to have very talented candidates. We're going to have an embarrassment of riches in that sense. So yeah, all of the above, all of those folks are great folks, and I've known some of them for some time. A few years ago, Corey and I we both went to Stanford, and so we did a joint event for the Stanford Alumni Association in New York City. I had a chance to work with Senator Warren a little bit when I was HUD Secretary, and I remember meeting her because I went to HLS, to Harvard Law School, and she was a professor there. And when she came in the year 2000, I think, into San Antonio, right after I graduated, it was the first time I met her, and she was there for the university, working an alumni event. And it's been neat to see everything that she has done. Obviously, Bernie might run. Served with the vice president, and I think that he's, tremendous. So, at the end of the day, whether I run or I don't run, I'm convinced that that Democrats are going to have great choices.
So here's the advantage you have over all these other people.
I'm from Texas, right?
You're from Texas, which is big. Texas caucuses were huge.
Yeah.
But you got a built-in surrogate. Any day you're tired or your daughter has something you gotta attend, you just send your brother. Don't tell anybody. You just show up. Nobody would have any idea.
When I was running in 2005 for mayor, one of my opponents accused us of trying to do that, of trying to switch places and all that. And so I'm going to keep him far away from anywhere. But no.
Well, you can't keep him too far because he could declare to run for president too, and that would get confusing for everybody.
If I made that decision, then I have no doubt that that Joaquin would get out there, and that's been one of the neat things. Like, I'm convinced that if I were not an identical twin, that I wouldn't be where I'm at in life. It's a very close relationship.
Yeah.
We shared a bunk bed together for years. We went to college together, to law school together. We're both in politics. So I'm looking forward, whatever happens, to kind of continuing that journey with him.
Yeah, it would also make the Secret Service job a lot harder.
Exactly.
They have to protect him because people wouldn't know the difference.
That's
If he's
true.
walking through a Union Station, they'd be like, wait a minute, the president.
It's like another version of Dave, right?
Yes, exactly.
Before we let you go, I just want to ask a quick question. Before you got here, Jamal was giving us this extensive history on boxing and the intersection of race and economics. We'll have a 2-hour podcast.
Wait, where did you go from boxing to race and economics?
Jamal will break the whole thing down for you
Although
afterwards.
I do like boxing.
Yes, this is what I want to
Yes,
ask
yes,
you
yes,
because
yeah.
I know you're a boxing fan. Tyson or Ali, who's the greatest?
Oh, Ali, yeah. I'd say in two ways. The way that he was able to come back multiple times, and also the stances that he took, the sacrifices that he made, go well beyond what he accomplished in the ring. But he's also iconic in the ring. And, one of the common elements that I see in Muhammad Ali or Michael Jordan, or people that have been considered the greatest in their sport, is just an utter confidence that they had. And Ali exemplifies that the most, but that he could back it up. There's some people that haven't, they can't back it up,
Do you box? Do you train?
No, when I was about 8, 9, 10, my brother and I had boxing gloves, and we used to just spar. But I never took boxing lessons. I never started sparring.
Not even Tybo.
No, where's that guy? Billy Blank?
Right, exactly.
No, I don't.
I do want to ask you just a couple of questions before we go about yourself and your life. We did get to this question about what you might do in 2020, but I think for the people who are listening, you're fairly young, 43.
Yeah. 43.
And you are on a possibility list to be president of the United States. How did you get here?
How do I answer this in the 30-second version? I think it started with a mother that wanted to make sure that Joaquin and I succeeded, and did everything that she could to be a very, very good mother as a single parent, and also was very politically involved. She was involved in the Chicano movement in the late 1960s and early 70s, that had learned a lot from the larger civil rights movement. And so Joaquin and I grew up with this sense that, of democratic participation as something positive, and that eventually I came around to believe that you could make a difference with politics. I was very cynical when I was teenager and in high school as to whether you could, because they were outsiders. She was part of a third party called the Rosaniga Party, and that said neither the Democratic Party nor the Republican Party right now is doing anything for these communities of color, especially this Latino community that was in San Antonio and Texas. And I think I got here because I went away from my home community, and I could see in the Bay Area like this great potential of higher education levels and income levels and entrepreneurialism. And I thought about, well, what about where I came from, and the folks that I grew up with? And I wanted to go back and to try and do something to lift up that community. And and then I was very blessed to get to serve as mayor, and then that President Obama saw potential in me in selecting me to give that speech in 2012, and then to serve in the cabinet. Because you can work as hard as you want, but people need to admit that it's hard work, and it's also when fortune smiles on you. And I'm here because I think it was a combination of those things.
You were, you tell me whether or not you think it was lucky or not, but there was, before the Castro brothers, there was a man named Henry Cisneros. And Henry Cisneros had also been mayor of San Antonio and HUD secretary. So at least there was somebody you could call and ask.
And that's true, and I got interested partly in going back and running specifically for mayor because Henry had been mayor when I was growing up in the 80s. And I'll tell you that, if you took Henry back then and you put him into 2018, the guy had it all. Mm-hmm. The talent, the intelligence, the articulateness, the looks. This is like 6'3", he looks like a president. I think that people have said that he could have been the first Latino president. He is that talented, and he certainly helped inspire me.
That's great. No, he was is still around, but I remember him when he was in the Clinton administration, and he was a very towering figure, both literally and figuratively. So
for sure.
So just a last plea before you go. When you're ready to announce, we would love to have you back here first before you go anywhere else.
Good. Yeah, come here or call in.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a 15-minute warning that they're gonna.
Make some news with the beat. We have a pretty good, awesome audience.
No, I was gonna say that I really appreciate the chance to come in here, and like I said, I follow y'all on Twitter every day and see your tweets, and would love to come back sometime.
We'd love to have
and when you get to New Hampshire, have the lobster. Go to Portsmouth. It's one of the most beautiful places in the state. Just take some time and get around. I think the one, when I first started doing politics and got taken to New Hampshire, the thing that was the most amazing to me, you could walk up to somebody on the street and ask them a question, and they know so much about politics and policy, and they're willing to engage in really in-depth conversations. Oh, let me tell you about Medicare Part D. You're like, whoa, wait a minute, we thought we were just having coffee. But it's an amazing place. So when you get up there,
that's what I've heard. They take their politics seriously, but they know it, and they're good. participants in democracy. So I'm looking forward to that, to the Q&As and all that other stuff.
Absolutely, and we'll keep our eye on this list of candidates that you are supporting, and try to see where they're going, and make sure we highlight some of those folks. But as Tiffany said, thanks for coming, and we want to have you back when you're headed to be president, vice president, emperor of the world. You got a lot of years left, and you got 40, 50, 60 more years left.
And congrats on all of y'all's success as well, and best wishes.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That is this edition of the Beat DC. My name is Jamal Simmons. I'm here with Tiffany Cross, and we will talk to you again next time.